We just had the Christmas holidays, and I was thinking back to when I was a little girl because one of my nephews is sad that Christmas is over. And so he's being a bit down about it. So it made me think about when I was a little girl. I remember very clearly on Christmas night, after everything was over, lying in my bed and crying because it was all over. And I was very sad about it. It was more of a melancholy, I think, that it was over. And I remember feeling this as a very young girl. And looking back on it as an adult and being around other children, I feel like it's a little bit of an unusual thing. This not necessarily sadness, but this melancholy feeling. And so I ask you if you were melancholy as a child, and you said yes, you were. I thought it would be an interesting thing to discuss about being melancholy children and just to see what other people's experiences are with this and maybe the reasons for it, why we think we were that way. I think it's unusual. I will say that. I know children, like all people, have emotions. We have happiness, sadness, fear, anger, all the things. The melancholy is a weird thing. I haven't been around a lot of children who I would say are melancholy.
How are you defining melancholy? Is this like prolonged? How does it look to you? Because I don't think I'm quite the same as you.
No, probably not. I mean, I think this is why my mother always said I was moody as a child, even as a teenager. Like the pictures of me as a child, it's pretty funny because she always thought it was hilarious that I could actually frown. I mean, I have lots of pictures of me with like this perfect frown. I mean, how can you do that? Even now, I think it's very difficult to have this perfect frown on your face, but I did. I think because I felt something about the world that I didn't understand. I felt something, but I couldn't make sense of it. I think for every happiness, I knew there was a sadness. I had this understanding of feelings, I think. And no, I'm not FI.
What you mean? Beliefs and values?
But I know what I felt. It's funny because I remember thinking, even in like happy moments, that I knew it wasn't going to last. And that made me appreciate the moment more because even as a child, I remember thinking, oh, this isn't going to last. Really enjoy it because, something bad's going to happen or it's going to change and you won't feel this happiness or joy or whatever.
I think we're similar in this, but it looks a lot different.
Yes.
I don't know, would you say that you were romantic in it?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I would say that I was too. So, like, even for, like, more silly things, really. I guess, like, I'd see, like, the overarching sadness of things, right?
Yes.
So, like, I'm always complaining that I never really had, like, a decent friend and stuff in school. But then,
Hmm.
when school ended, I was all like, oh no, this is terrible. We're all going to different schools and we're all being split up after all this time. And then, like, to think about it, I didn't like any of them. Do you know what I mean? Like, no one was
Right.
like particularly on one hand, and they're like, ugh, everyone's shit. And then on the other hand, I'm like, oh man, this is actually not good. And quite melancholy about the whole thing because I don't know. I guess it's like a combination of everybody and like everything is ending. And to me, that's kind of sad. It's like the end of Lord of the Rings, where like Frodo goes to the Elven lands, and it's like, no, Frodo, they're all split up, and it's like an end of an era, and there's just something like distinctively sad about it, even though like you're not particularly involved or care in some way. Bit
So
weird,
it's,
isn't it?
so it's more like seeing the forest rather than the trees.
Yeah, yeah, I think so. Like, how do you explain that? Like, it's the familiarity with the environment the people kind of makes it like a sad thing. In some way, you get used to people, even if they're like not particularly special to you. You know, I had the same experience leaving my second school, and it's just everyday life all of a sudden, and then you're leaving, and then you'll take like photos, big group photos of like the whole year and stuff, and you're like, damn, I might never see any of these people again. On some level, I just don't care.
So, yeah,
But
so it's
then,
just the idea of it. Again, it's the romanticism of it, right? Like, oh,
yeah,
I'll never see these people again, even though the facts were you didn't really care about the people.
well, I wouldn't say I wouldn't care about them, but like, in terms of like, you know, they weren't particularly special to me,
Mm.
you know. But then the whole leaving and like, this is like an era, and it's all like sentimental for some reason, because I guess it's what you know.
I think for me, it's realizing the implications that creates that melancholy. And I think even as a child, I realized the implications. So
Right.
again, because Christmas is on my mind, I remember when my mother told me that there was no Santa Claus. I, came home from school, of course, kids were talking, and so I just asked her about it. And I guess she figured I was old enough to know the truth. But then I just had such an incredible melancholy about it to find out. And it wasn't so much that wasn't the sadness in the moment. It was more the implications. What did this mean?
Right.
Like it was the implication of the thing. Well, there's no Santa, then this, then this, then this. And it was the implication of it that caused me such melancholy.
Yeah, I get it. It's like crushed hope of millions of children or something.
Yeah. And I
It's kind of like
remember,
dark on a really deep level.
right. And I had three younger siblings, and I remember thinking, what would this mean for them? How is it going to affect them to find out that there is no Santa? And then it was just
Yeah.
everything. It was like my whole life flashed before my eyes. My whole Christmas life. All the letters I wrote to him, like which of course I have now. My mother saved them and they're pretty funny to look at. But I just how I poured my heart out to Santa and everything that I believed and it was just like all of this just flashes before your eyes in a moment, the implications of it. And I think that's what causes such profound
Yeah, I mean,
melancholy.
on the surface though, it's like, you know, it's a bit of fun. Oh, look at that! Isn't that cute? Extra presents, you know. To most people, it's not a big deal.
No, but then
Oh,
that's why,
Santa's not real, whatever. But
yeah.
then, really, like when you look into the deeper,
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. I think that we do this. So that's why I'm wondering, like, do other people, in this case, do other children see it like this? Or is it just something easily moved on from? Do they not
yeah, I
consider
think,
the philosophical implications of it? Or is it just like, oh, well, okay, well, that's sad. There's no Santa. And then they just move on and they don't think in that way about it.
I think
And
most kids are like, oh, so it was you all along. Cool.
yes, yes.
Oh, that's funny.
Yeah. I'm not saying that some kids aren't affected or that they don't feel sadness about it. I'm saying the difference between them and you and we think about the deeper implications of it. We consider those things.
Yeah, I imagine most of the intuitive types do in some way. It might differ for NI and NE, but
Well, yes, because the nephew that I mentioned at the beginning is an ENTP.
yeah.
So I'd have to pick his brain.
Do you think for him it's more like a bursting of the bubble or the illusion?
No, I think, well, this year was the first year that, he knew. But see, with him, I think he did know. He knew for
Yeah,
years, but
I think I know what this is then. It's like, because I remember this distinctively, like, you sort of know, and it's not a big deal that you know, right? But somehow you realise, because you're an NT type, that like Christmas is becoming less special. And there's nothing you can do about it. It's just you're just growing up and like
it's
it's less
changing.
exciting
It's
and
I think
Yeah,
it's changing because he wasn't down just because of the Santa Claus thing. He's always down. Like he's
yeah.
had this for a long time where he feels down after the holidays are over.
Not everyone though. It's only more recently. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's only probably in the past few years, right?
Right. Because he's realizing that the thrill of Christmas is waning.
Maybe. Yeah,
I think so.
I'd have to
I
talk to
remember
him about
this.
it.
I was very cognizant of this. Like, oh man, this wasn't as good as last time, and and then I sort of realised I had like the awareness that like, damn, it's downhill from here now. When you're a kid, like when you get like a gift or whatever, it's more of a big deal. And as you grow up, I think, then suddenly it's like, oh, you could have bought that yourself, It's not like you're ungrateful or anything. It's just like you've got means now, and like you can have
Right.
things you want, and then all these things are not saved for Christmas magic. You wanted a PlayStation, so you bought one in April,
Right.
and now you got a PlayStation.
Yeah, but see, for me, it wasn't my experience because, like I said, I felt like this way before I knew Santa Claus didn't exist.
You bought a PlayStation.
No, no. I know that I've felt this melancholy well before I even knew Santa didn't exist.
And it's
Do-
not just the
So it's
it's not
really
just a
not,
Santa thing,
no, it's
just to be
not that
clear.
at all. No, it's
It's
not.
like
That's what
a
I'm trying to say.
disposition.
Yeah, right. It was just the hype, the specialness of it, just to know it was all over and what that meant and the deeper thoughts in it.
Yeah, I mean it's the end of the year as well.
Hmm.
So in a way it's like the leaving school thing. I mean, you'd get mini versions of that at the end of the year, like, oh, I'm in this year now. Ooh, what's the implications
Well,
of that? What does it mean?
that's another thing because I remember clearly in elementary school at the end of the school year, the last day of school, all the kids were so excited to get out of school. I mean, they were yelling and, I cried my eyes out at the end of the school year because I had to leave my teacher and I knew I had to go have another teacher and I didn't want that. I didn't want, I had all the thoughts and I always thought to myself, what is wrong with me? Why is it in situations where people
I'll
are
make a list, shall
rejoicing, where people are rejoicing, I am sad, you know? And the last day of school was awful and all the other kids were so excited and I cried, but none of the other kids would cry. It was weird in this way. That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
I
I know
wouldn't
from,
cry.
well, of course
I would
not.
just sort of like stare into the distance, like my mind's been lost, and be like, oh
I was
man.
depressed. I was depressed about it. It wasn't exciting for me. Of course, it was nice to have a break from school, but again, it was the deeper implications. What did this mean? I would never be in third grade again. I would never have my teacher ever again. It was
Yeah,
all the
it's kind of tragic, isn't
implications.
it?
It's very tragic, yes. And I just
Yeah,
felt like
I
all
agree.
the other children didn't care, or it just didn't have those implications for them. And I can list experience after experience in my life where I was much different from the other children. And again, at the time, I didn't reflect on it as much. It's only now as an adult that I have returned to those memories to consider what did that mean? Why was I like that? Even though I was feeling these things as a child, I didn't have the capability necessarily to understand it or why I was this way. I just knew how I felt and what I was thinking. But to actually think about my process was something that required more of an adult mind. So now I can go back and think about how I was as a child, realize that no, I wasn't like other children. What made me different? Whereas for you, you had an advantage over me in this way. Well, if you want to call it an advantage, but you probably were better able to understand why it was happening in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it was very like clear matter of fact. Hmm. This is what I'm feeling. This is sad.
And maybe for me, it caused more angst because I didn't understand. So now I can be at peace with it because now I understand what made me that way as a child. But as a child, I just think it caused me more grief to have these feelings, to have these thoughts, and not understand why I was different.
Um, I'm not sure. I mean, it's for me. I would sort of like despair at my difference, knowing that I'm different.
Yes. See,
I'd be
this is
like,
it's similar.
uh, you know.
You knew you were different, and that was cause for depression.
Welcome to
Whereas I
NI.
didn't know why I was different, which was cause for depression.
Yeah, yeah. I would spend the time just thinking, man, this sucks. No one's like me. No one's ever gonna understand me. This is ridiculous. Everyone's a moron. Why is no one like me? you know, stuff like that.
So you were depressed in that, and I just felt like an oddball.
Depressed. I don't know. I don't know if that's the right word. I was more
Yeah.
like, well, it's another year
Resigned.
where no one. It's another year
Resigned.
where no one is like you. Great.
And
It's
I kind
another
of
year
think,
where you haven't got any proper friends because they're not like you. That kind of thing.
yeah, this is why people call our types old souls. And I understand that terminology because in some ways we have the wisdom of an old person. But again, for me, I had the experience, but I lack the understanding. So I can't really call it wisdom, really. I think it's just looks old on a young person,
Right.
but it's not quite the same. I know because I am much older now and I still have the same feelings, but now
The thing is,
it's
like,
more from a bank of experiences now, if that makes
it's
sense.
annoying because everyone else grows up as well eventually, but like you're always kind of ahead of them. So like you're always old, no matter
Right.
what you do.
Right. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I look at older people now who are having those melancholy feelings because they realize that their youth is gone and, situations in life will never be the same. And they're sort of experiencing what I experienced as a child. And I think it's so weird for me. Yeah. Because I
Yeah.
think, wow, I felt like that when I was 6, and you're just feeling it now at the age of 48 or whatever, at the age of 60, you're starting to be sentimental about Christmas or whatever. I felt like this
Yes.
my whole life.
Life, huh? What is even the point?
So it's very strange to see it happening and just know that I've been like this all along. And it's even more, I have to say, it's even more poignant now because now I have so much greater understanding about things.
Yeah,
So
there's no like light at the end of the tunnel, is there? It's just more darkness.
it just keeps getting darker and darker.
Because like the more you start sort of with like base wisdom, and then you're going from there, and then you're ahead of other people, and then in some way it just doesn't get better. You're always in the same position.
Well, I don't know. I have to say, whereas a child I felt so much angst about things in that regard, I don't now. I do have what I would call a quiet satisfaction, and I think it's just because I have understanding now. And yes, the melancholy continues, it probably even deepens, but I have joy in it. I have a satisfaction in it because it makes sense. And for me, when things make sense, I can be at peace and I can be at rest.
No, I'm just like perpetually cynical. Just like, ugh,
So what
people and
would
life.
so what would it take for you to be at peace then?
Well, I mean, the thing is, like, I think the difference between us in the childhood aspects, I wasn't like it all the time. I had my moments, you know. My kind of FI version of it has its moments, and then it's done with it, and then it's all like jovialness again. It's like
Well, I mean, the same with
Russell
me is
Brand says, you don't want to be around when the laughter stops.
right. Well, it's the same with me. I mean, of course, I had my moments as well. I mean, I wasn't always, melancholy and in the dark places, I guess.
Yeah, but how often? is that fluctuation? Because to me it sounds like, every other day you're having a wobbly.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty funny. I did keep a diary or diaries when I was a child, and it's funny to read it. I mean, I think, wow, 7-year-old wrote that? That's depressing.
I don't know.
It's,
For me, it's probably like once a week. I'd be like, ugh, I
well, that's a
hate you.
lot. Well, that's a lot, though. I mean, that's
But
probably
yeah,
this.
not like all day though.
No, well,
I
it's
might
not
just
all.
have like
It wasn't all day for me either.
10 minutes to just be like, ugh, everyone
I don't
sucks,
know.
and then I'll be back to normal.
Yeah, well, I can't now, many years later, I can't tell you how often I was in that place. I don't know. But I can think back to my childhood and I remember happy times when I felt happy and I wasn't, dwelling in the depths of despair. But how often did I go there? How often was I on the mountaintop? I have no idea. Doesn't really matter. I just know that the moments when I was in that philosophical quandary, I don't believe many other children were there with me. And I guess that's the
No,
whole point of this video. It's just to see and what your experiences are, what mine are, and just to hear what anyone else's experiences are with this. Because I believe upon many years of reflecting and seeing other children, many children throughout the years, I think it is a bit unusual.
I think in a lot of ways the whole melancholy thing for the both of us, it stems from like just being odd and being
Yes.
alone,
Yeah.
which is why it's even more annoying when like ISFP types say they're INTJ. Because like basically all my friends were pretty much ISFP type just because I got lumped with them.
Yeah.
For some reason they saw something in me that they liked. Because I'm really thinking back, most of them were ISFP types. But I don't know. I guess it's because I didn't pick them.
No, you
Like
didn't pick it was the same with me. We didn't pick our friends necessarily. People chose
yeah,
us.
exactly. Yeah, that's the
Right.
problem.
Yes.
Um, what do they say? You can't choose your family, but you
Choose.
can choose your friends. No,
Yeah, right.
not for
Unless,
us.
unless they're us, right?
I certainly did not. I just sort of sat in a room, and then all the ISFPs came up to me and were like, "You're my friend now," and then you just thought, okay, well that's better than nothing, and then you went along with it, and then years later you reflect and think, man, all my friends were the same.
Right.
That's why I got the same results all the
Yes.
time.
Yes. So, what's everyone else's experiences with childhood? Were you melancholy? Were you odd in this way? We'd love to hear your thoughts.